So originally when I made this video, this was only supposed to be a response to a couple of Yu-Gi-Oh YouTubers that I enjoy watching. But the more I started to write the script, the more I kind of realized that there was a very big connection between this and video games. And you see, there is a very specific problem when it comes to, well, card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And eventually getting people into video games. And there is a question about new players, which is, why do new players matter? Well, if being a new player is synonymous with being a casual, then it's all about converting these casual players into hardcore players. However, this is something that's only really possible with a fresh new game or with a board game, because normally when it comes to card games or board games, normally there's a community willing to help you learn and play the game. And also, most games are very easy to get into. However, this is sort of where the paths differ. You see, the truth is that it's much harder for an established video game to get new players. Take it from me, I'm a Halo fan, and every year it becomes much harder for me to try and convince people to try and play Bungie's Halo. And that's actually a shame, because I do believe that Bungie's Halo is actually worth playing. But I get it. Some people are going to be like, well, Halo is a single player game. Okay, but what about online focused PvP games? Well, apparently others have also found it difficult to get new players in it as well.
Wonder how you don't get burnt out of this game. Playing alts has been really fun for me. I mix it up, man. Sometimes I focus on TBC, sometimes I focus on detail. I've been playing lots of different classes. I just give myself like little projects in the game. Yeah, I mean, alts are what keep the game fresh, 100%. Here's another thing that's really, really important. I wish the developers understood this. Well, maybe they do understand it. Maybe they don't. I don't know. I don't know who needs to hear it, but it's not just an alt problem. Like, you have people that want to return to the game and try the expansion, and they can't. Because it's totally unrealistic, the stuff they need to do to be able to play the game. You know what I mean? If someone's a WoW player and they want to like try out Mythic Plus and try out raiding and try out PvP, the amount of shit they have to do to get to that point is actually dumb. Like, I apologize, but it's stupid. Even if they keep adding alt catch-up, there needs to just be catch-up, because some people don't have alts. Some people, it's just their main character, and if it's just your main character, you're totally screwed. So that's my 2 cents. I had an experience. Here's an experience that I had. This alone should be a video. Like, I should just make a video and send this to the developers. Okay, here we go. You ready? This is what happened. Let me tell you guys a little story. All right, we might actually turn this into a YouTube video or something like that, okay? Here's a little story for you guys, okay? And this is a situation I feel like the developers should be made aware of, because people want to play the game, but they can't, okay? And obviously saying that they can't is hyperbole, but you have to understand, it's like, this is the analogy I like to use. The analogy I like to use is, it's like someone says, oh man, I want to go for a hike. You know what I mean? It's like the first hike they've ever done in their whole life, and you drop them off at the base of Mount Everest, okay? You drop them off at the base of Mount Everest. It's just, they're going to give up before they even try. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how it is in WoW right now. And I know that they added a lot of catch-up stuff for alts, but it's not just alts you have to be concerned with. I think you should be even more concerned with getting new players into the game, or people that haven't tried Shadowlands, that want to play Shadowlands, okay? So this is a real story. I shit you not, okay? I was doing LFG, and I saw a Rep Paladin that was like 1,200. And I was like, I'm going to help this guy get his 1,400 so he can upgrade his gear. So I joined his group. We play a bunch of games. He goes up some rating. He gets to like 1,500 or something like that. And then I noticed he doesn't have a legendary. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You don't have a legendary? That's crazy. And then I realized he didn't have a covenant. Okay, so he had no legendary, no covenant, and then he started linking me his conduits, okay? He started linking me his conduits and asked how he could put them in his gear. So he's trying to socket his conduits into his gear because he didn't understand how any of it worked. Now this guy, I assume, bought a level 60 boost, okay? This guy bought a level 60 boost, and what he did was just play BGs. So he just played a bunch of BGs. I actually have his armory right here. His name is Holy Dickens, okay? So you guys can look at his gear, okay? He grinded all of his honor gear. This is what he did. He grinded all of his honor gear. Okay, he's right here. And then after he got full honor gear, he started queuing rated arena. And obviously, he's got no legendary, he's got no covenant, he's got no conduits, he's got no chance. So he's hard stuck 1,200, grinding out the conquest wins. He's like 300 games played. And then I join his group. This is a true story. I join his group, we play, we get 1,500. And I tell him, I'm like, bro, you don't have your legendary, you don't have your conduits, you don't have your covenant. Like, you need to get those. I literally get in Discord with him. Okay, I get in Discord with him and I link him a guide. All right, I link him a guide on how to get all of these things unlocked, and I tell him exactly what he needs to do to level them up. And he says, okay, reluctantly. And then he literally quits. Instead of doing all of those things, he literally just stops playing the game. He literally quit that day. I'm not joking. Like, this is a true story. This is someone who wanted to PvP. This is someone who wanted to play. He grinded all of his honor gear. He grinded a bunch of his conquest gear. And then when I told him all the other stuff he needed to do, I was like, oh yeah, you got to do your Torghast to get your legendary. You got to do the world bosses. Here's your guide. Get your renown up. Grind your conduits. He's fuck that. And he quit. So this is a true story of a real player. And I'm sure he's not the first person, okay? So I'm just putting that out there. People want to play the game, but it's way too jarring, okay? So I don't know what needs to happen, but there's a problem. There's a clear problem. And it definitely needs to be fixed, because WoW is not accessible right now to someone returning to the game, period.
So, do new players matter? Yes, but for me, this is actually much more of like an upfront thing. And a lot of people do start to kind of scratch their heads about like, oh, how come for established games it's much harder to get players into it versus like established card games? Yeah, the truth is that there's a big obvious answers as to why new players don't really join in is because eventually the gap becomes so large, specifically within video games, to the point where it basically feels impossible unless you are someone crazy enough to look at this game and like, no matter what happens, I'm gonna make this game my bitch. And as Charles Barkley once said, everybody has an ego. Gamers probably have the most fragile ego, which is why a lot of them tend to rage quit whenever they're losing or being curb stomped. You see, the truth is that gamers want to feel like they're actually good at something, if not great at something. And when somebody else comes in who's actually great at the game and curb stomps the fuck out of them, they leave. The truth is that players want to feel great at something day one, despite the fact that you need to get used to a new game's systems. And the truth is that a week of learning for a video game or even a card game is usually the basic requirement. It will normally take you about a week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks longest, to actually understand the way how a game functions and feels. However, what about an MMO? Unfortunately, an MMO expects a year out of you, which unfortunately is a very unrealistic thing for gamers. And if all of that was just a little bit too difficult for you to understand, then here it is. In the beginning of a game's life cycle, there is this fuck around and find out part about it. Everyone's clean slate, even playing field. But as time progresses and the state of the game becomes more solidified, eventually all that you're left with are people that decide to play this game religiously. And yet the fact that I believe that trying to get new players for an established game is a dead end, and yet for some reason getting new players is very much desired. And despite the fact that I believe there are certain genres that does attract a lot of players, such as shooters, fighters, MOBAs, and MMOs. But MMOs are weird. I mean, despite the fact that MMOs particularly don't tickle my fancy, however, MMOs has the broadest net when it comes to catching players, especially when specific games are more about the initial offer. So in theory, MMOs technically speaking have the most to offer late game. In practicality, it's all based off the type of player you fucking are. And the only reason why I bring this up is because most other games only have a hurdle of like maybe a month or two. MMOs have a huge ass hurdle that lasts several months. And I think this is also a problem that people are kind of starting to find in World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft has a shitload of hurdles. Even the players are hurdles. And from what I understand from Furry Fuckers 14, if you don't like what the fuck is going on, I hear there's a good ass story that keeps you hooked. And even with Warframe is, it's Max Payne mixed with Matrix. And you're a ninja. The truth is that there needs to be something for these new players beyond just the initial value of a game. The truth is that there's only two ways to really get new players hooked onto your game, besides having a friend who plays that game and asking you to play it with him. The first part is to accept the new players with open arms, and the other one is to fucking help them with playing the game. And from what I hear, this is definitely something that you are not willing to do. So guess what you're gonna have to do if you want new players? Entice them with a new game. Like if Blizzard came out, it's like, hey man, we're making WoW 2. But guess what? A new game means clean slate, even playing field. And that's the easiest way to get new players. Or just do what I think you should do. You have a hardcore fan base, double down on them. Well, that's it for this video. And I don't need to end it the way how other fuckers end it. You know what to do. I hope you enjoyed. Otherwise...
In the meantime, and as usual, go fuck yourself.